Hi, you're listening to the TL podcast. My name is Thomas Hoang, and I am interviewing someone who seems ordinary, but who is achieving extraordinary things. That is the quest of this interview. Good morning, everyone. Today I'm working with Eunice Cheung. She's a psychologist and she's the founder of Your Millennial Therapist. She also runs a podcast which is called Eunice Co Podcast. And she's also an author of an ebook, Attack the Roots of Your Patterns. Now she has figured and appeared on a few workshops with Google Sydney, the KPMG. She's been on the SBS Insight. And really we have the privilege to have a psychologist answer questions about what it is to perform in a sales environment. Hi, Dr. Jodie, how are you?
I'm really well. How are you doing?
Excellent. So great that you took a bit of time to share with us today. So we're going to try and go into this. I know a little bit about your story, which isn't a crazy story. I actually do rank it with the Viktor Frankl kind of story, but a little bit different. So there's a lot already said about this. I really thank you for this because I want to take a bit of your time here now and talk about something that hits everyone. And I know that you also work with real estate agents. So at the end, I'm going to talk about that too. So can you just give us about 5 minutes about the story of your life and why you do what you do?
Yeah, with pleasure. Well, growing up with a mum who was born into trauma, she was fairly challenged by her earlier life experiences. And so grew up really being a mum to my mum and existing with somebody who experienced high anxiety and really evolving that protective sort of instinct from a young age, having that lens. And so growing up wanting to help people ultimately, and then found an affinity with this sort of caregiver kind of role, experiencing anxiety myself along the way, and this heightened sense of need for certainty, need for safety. And so really grew up with a bond with anxiety, let's say, and then did undergraduate degree in psychology. I actually started prior to that doing design and then went into psychology and found a real joy in that space and got, with a view to doing clinical psychology, got poached out of uni into management consulting and worked at PwC for many years in leadership development, in change management and business strategy, and then was working in Macquarie Bank in a similar internal consulting role, and then worked and trained at Harvard, did postgraduate training in anxiety and doctoral research in anxiety, and then really set up the anxiety clinic, set up Mind Strength Peak Performance Consultancy, and developed the Mind Strength methodology. And my dad was actually a real estate agent. And I was very, very close with my dad. So he was a hard worker in real estate. He was in commercial real estate. And he actually passed away from pancreatic cancer. And he almost had a maternal role with me. He was almost my mum as well as my dad. But I saw how hard he worked, but his suffering from cancer, it really left an impact on me to see that life is really precious. And for me, two of my core values are legacy and impact. And so it makes very passionate about the work that I do because I'm driven by a passion for legacy and impact. So my dad's passing really led me to want to live mindfully and take the bull by the horns and have impact. And so I developed the Mind Strength Method, which is the high performance methodology, and methodology to help people with anxiety, stress, low mood, burnout. But in a high performance space, it really helps business leaders, entrepreneurs, organizations to move out of unhelpful actions into high performance habits, which actually enable people to bolster their well-being and resilience, but also align to their key performance goals.
Yeah.
So that's kind of me in a nutshell. Best-selling author along the way, and many other things, but you said 5 minutes.
I know you. I know you. Yeah, it's crazy. I know it's crazy. But first of all, to start with, anxiety is a big subject. Everyone talks about it all the time for the moment, and in sales, it's a daily friend or daily enemy, right? So the first thing I think is we need to really precise for people that you can't get rid of anxiety, right?
Correct. I think that's a really great frame. It's our protective instinct, it's our primitive survival instinct. It's there for a reason in the case of real threat. So it is our physiological reaction to scanning our environment for threat. So our prefrontal cortex looks out for, is there anything bad happening? It might present itself in a worry thought, or it might present itself just as an automatic reaction through whatever reason. There's neuroscience that I could talk to there, but ultimately it's our desire to it's our need to self-protect.
Yeah.
The challenge is it's in a sales space, and in a, let's say what we do in real estate is we have to sit with a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty is the fundamental anxiety trigger. We don't like uncertainty. We like to be able to prepare and in order to protect.
Yeah.
Again, that survival instinct kicking in. And real estate agents, they're really that they have a deep desire to kick the shit out of their goals, let's say. And so you want certainty and control in that space.
Yeah.
And the two big ticket items in a real estate context where anxiety can cluster is performance anxiety. So that is fear of failure, fear of making a mistake, but really also social anxiety. And so performance anxiety, it's the uncertainty around outcome. Will I make this sale? Will I get this client, etc., etc.? Social anxiety is even more prevalent, both of them side by side. Social anxiety is fear of being judged negatively, fear of rejection, and in the sales space, we know that you've got to have that dogged determination and consistency and persistence, which means you're getting knockbacks all the time. You have to lean into the discomfort of maybe these people are going to reject me. Maybe they're going to judge me. And so in the real estate space, it's about how, and the Mind Strength methodology is all about how to move out of a discomfort with uncertainty and how to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty and realign to high performance habits. And that's the work that I do with agencies across Australia and some of the leading agents within Australia.
Yeah. I mean, when you take medication to get rid of your pneumonia, it's off, it's gone. But for many years, I've done a lot of things, Deepak Chopra things. I've done the mindfulness. I've done meditation because I wanted to obviously to get rid of the anxiety of it's almost 5 o'clock. I might lose the sale. You know, if they're not going to extend the cooling off, I might lose the sale. Hold on, it's coming to the end of a quarter. I might not reach the target I want, but I now have a lifestyle that I need to live, and I need that money. So all of these things really contributes to your anxiety constantly. And I'm thinking, hold on, should I keep on working on getting rid of my anxiety when it's going to be there all the time? Or do I have to find a profession where I don't have to feel this way all the time? Like sometimes you get a phone call and you go, oh no, if with this guy, he's going to be canceling my agreement. So it, how do people really work with anxiety if that's going to be there all the time and they can't put up with this? And therefore the question is part of anxiety something that sometimes we have in our personality?
Um, uh, Absolutely. We're a byproduct of our nature, so the genes that we're born with, and our nurture, so our environmental experiences and our history as well. And anxiety, being our primitive survival mechanism, means that it is part of us. It's part of this amygdala part of our brain that sets us up for survival. Now, by you sharing with me that you experience anxiety, it straight away tells me, I want you in my corner. It tells me you'd be a really great friend to have, right? Because oftentimes, and challenge me if you don't agree, but I'd put money on
I'm
this.
curious.
Oftentimes, over decades of experience that I've had in this space, that people who experience anxiety have care factor. It's an analytical mind which serves you very well in your profession. You're constantly thinking, you're constantly wanting things to work out, and it is this care factor. So for your clients, it's wanting to make sure everything goes well, right? And for yourself and for your family and potentially your friends as well, right? That's what anxiety is. But it's a double-edged sword. So deep sense of empathy, care factor, wanting to keep everyone safe and well, and an analytical mind. But what can happen is that we can start to be thinking in that worry space about all of the possible things that might go wrong.
Yep.
And that's going to trigger the sympathetic nervous system and be unhelpful and unhealthy. So it's how to recognize the underpinning qualities of who you are and moving out of the challenging elements of that and realigning to your values of care and your values of commitment, dedication, achievement, which are superpower values, right? Growth, continual improvement. I would bet that you are a hard taskmaster on yourself, that you want to make sure that you're constantly learning, that you, right? Am I
We got a
correct?
camera around here.
See, I've been spying on you. No, we've only just met, but this is what I would put money on. Not that I want to promote gambling or anything like that. But yes, but the beautiful thing is this is all very helpable, right? I don't say treatable. We want to take anxiety right out of a medical frame into a human frame. And what I love about the work that I do in a high performance context is that not only is this helpable, but the tools to help with anxiety are the same tools that enable phenomenal high performance. So this is the privilege of the work that I'm so grateful to be able to do, is help people to move out of that space of challenge into achieving their hopes and dreams, professionally as well as personally.
Yes. And the work is a continual effort, isn't it? Because it's almost like cleaning a house. You may clean your head of anxiety today, but that doesn't mean it's going to creep back in. And you still have to do that work on a daily basis, correct?
Well, a lot of it is about mindset tools and transformational tools. So it's about helping people to view life in a different way and to understand human behavior in a way that does drive transformation. So, I want people to feel hopeful that this is not about superficial strategies. There's lots of superficial strategies out there that do and can put a blanket on experiences. And that's part of the tools. Certainly the things that you've said, meditation, mindfulness, things of that nature. There's lots that we can Google on the internet and equip ourselves with tools. Where we want to go is move from the superficial into the transformational. The light bulb moments that say, okay, this is why my brain was working in this way. This is why I thought that worry was helpful, but it's the opposite of helpful. And so I'm going to take myself out of engaging in that as a mental process and moving into more helpful mental processes.
Yeah.
This is why anxiety isn't a weakness. This is why anxiety is a strength, but I'm going to move out of the unhelpful into the helpful.
Yes.
So yes, there's work to be done, but it doesn't have to be this sense of I'm flawed, what's wrong with me? If anything, it's about what's right with me and how can I engage in the right strategies to value continual improvement and growth. Part of it is acceptance of the noise that can take place, acceptance of potentially that critical voice that says not good enough, not good enough, not good enough, or should be more, should do more. Acceptance is, so anxiety makes us want to fight the noise and fight the voice, but acceptance in parts of this is very helpful. It actually dissolves things. I'm kind of jumping in and I might not be quite clear in what I'm saying right now, but there are many strategies. I want people to feel hopeful and empowered.
I know you say a lot of these good things in your book, the Mind Strength Toolkit, but is there a way that you can, through your technique or through your work on people, is there a way that you can help guys like me to have stimuli to bypass my limbic brain straight away and bypass my amygdala so that I can really deal with these things? Because sometimes it's when you're in the middle of that storm, it's very hard for you to reason and allow the neocortex to go, it's okay. What you're thinking now is just a noise. You're in the middle of a storm. It's a storm.
It can absolutely be a storm. There are many strategies, and my book, The Mind Strength Method, which is also in audiobook, is cover to cover with practical tools and strategies to help to turn the noise down, and get on with your life in an empowered way. So there is certainly a compilation of strategies that we bring together to help people to achieve high performance goals and achieve a life of flourishing. It's our human right, and it's not a weakness, it's a strength to seek out the help that you deserve and in a high performance context. So I think, it is smashing stigma is part of this, to say it's not weak to feel, it's human to feel. But ultimately, what can really help is recognizing, taking the concepts of mindset or mental health or well-being out of being a bolt onto high performance and recognizing that it's front and center core to high performance.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, there are many ways that we can quieten that amygdala hijack. And it's bringing together tools that are in relation to all semblance of mental health and well-being, but mindset as well as what is critical to being a high-performance leader, as well as clarity around high-performance rhythms, business strategy, psychological safety, building a high-performance culture. So in a business context, as opposed to in a personal context. And we're all the same. Yes, people experience anxiety to various levels of severity, And there is this magnificence of neurodiversity, let's say, as well. But, you know, I currently have a number of billionaires on my books, right? So I work with Olympians, I work with billionaires, and I work with parents, kids, and teens. And some of the parents are billionaires. But non-billionaires. My point is, no, and I work in the school space. So my point is, no matter who you are, we're very similar. And we all experience vulnerabilities and we all experience challenges. So it's thinking about your right to look after yourself and also taking it into a context of high performance and flourishing. And why shouldn't that be everybody's human right?
Yeah. And I think probably to further your point, the work with anxiety, it's almost like working a muscle, isn't it? You
Yes.
can't just read the book and just go, now I've read it, I know. There's work. You have to build that muscle. I mean, you know, scientists like you have come up with the line that says neurons that fires together wires together. So there's a lot of old habits that drives us into automatically think about anxiety that we have to undo by also building new neural pathways, correct?
Yes,
And so it's a
correct.
muscles that you build over time, and that will lessen your anxiety while you're building a new foundation for a better way of living.
100%. That's spot on. And that's a beautiful, you know, way to think about it. And you mentioned the word neuroplasticity, which is such a wonderful, empowering concept and reality. Neuroplasticity meaning that we have the power to rewire our brain. We have the power to build new neural pathways, strengthening new neural pathways, and quietening relics. Like oftentimes, we talked earlier about us being a byproduct of our history and our genes. So, you know, with anxiety, there are a number of different pathways to that hijacking amygdala. There's the prefrontal cortex pathway, which is where we think about what is the worry story, what are the thoughts, what are our beliefs about the world, how are we perceiving the world, what are the unconscious biases that are taking place, how can we stand up to those stories and move into helpful habits. But there's also the brainstem pathway, and the brainstem pathway is a pathway that talks to trauma, and oftentimes earlier life trauma. For me, my earlier life trauma, of a history of trauma, right, or a parental history of trauma, captures me and takes me to a hijacking amygdala that scans for threats, right? So I have that anxiety wiring in my brain based on a history of trauma, but potentially genes that were designed that way as well, and a freaking active prefrontal cortex, kick-ass prefrontal cortex, let's say. But what I'm talking to is sometimes there's work to be done around trauma as well, and trauma pathways, because that bypasses our worry thoughts. That's just like this, bam, I'm scanning for threats, or this, I'm feeling anxiety and I actually don't even know why. And so there's sometimes work to be done, and oftentimes work to be done around that brainstem pathway, and helping people to be liberated from earlier life trauma. And this doesn't have to be years. We can unravel things very efficiently, right? So, and many times this is the work that I do with my clients in a high performance context, or with my team at the anxiety clinic, where we're helping people across Australia in a digital world, as we're doing right now. We can connect and help so many people, which which I'm so grateful for the space that we're in at the moment to be able to do that.
Right. Okay. Just as a side issue here now, there's a lot of children about to start their HSC now. What would be your tips for them to let go of that anxiety that they're going to enter for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I've got 3 children myself, and now they're in university now.
Oh,
Yes, indeed. So they've all done their HSC, so I know the challenges that we as parents go through. It's bloody tough. It's a barrage of stress. We're supporting a lot of HSC students at the anxiety clinic and taking them through workshops to manage pre-HSC stress. It is about some of those breathing strategies and techniques that we were talking about at the more superficial level that in the moment can take people out of the hijacking amygdala. But there's work around understanding where your mind is going. If you're trying to get certainty when there is no certainty and engaging in worry, it's how to help your children to move into taking the focus away from outcome. And this is the same in a real estate high performance context, taking the focus away from outcome and bringing the focus back to effort, taking the
nice.
focus out of worry and bringing the focus back to problem solving and action planning around what's in your control. And being proud of yourself for effort and engaging in, are you being kind to yourself? But and kindness and compassion, or are you beating yourself up? So it's conscious awareness around some of these things. I am big on holistic well-being to help with mental health challenges. So exercise, getting out in nature, connecting with your family and friends. Small is better than not at all. Consistency is more important than quantity, but exercise and movement stimulates those positive neurochemicals, serotonin and dopamine. Doing fun activities will stimulate your feel-good neurochemicals. So it's all about holistic well-being, especially for our children, to look after their body, to look after their mind, staying hydrated with water, not wine or whiskey.
I can edit that part.
It's like, what's in my flask? But truly, water is fabulous because it hydrates our brain and we feel better. And so some of those holistic well-being elements are very helpful for
Right.
our HSC students.
Wow. Okay. So just to recap very quickly, they still need to make sure that they take some time to spend on themselves, not just on the study, to
Totally.
go out there, to connect with people, to connect with nature, to look after themselves physically, right? So that's going to be a challenge for them because a lot of them are going to say, hold on, I don't have that half an hour. I need to put it into study. But unless
5
you look
minutes.
out 5 minutes, okay.
5 minutes. 2 minutes.
Wow.
Honestly, seriously, walk around the block. There's science to support the power of walking to calm the sympathetic nervous system. Rhythmic activities, it's super helpful. It helps us to be bringing our mind back to the present moment. Walking meetings in a corporate context, really powerful, because when we're in the sympathetic nervous system, it's adrenaline, it's cortisol, and other neurochemicals shut down. And in a real estate context, I'm moving sort of away from HSC for a second. In a real estate context, your work is so fundamentally about, as you obviously know, about building relationships, but also within the team, collaboration and connection. So if you're in stress, people will bounce off that energy. We just do. We pick up on, and I do a lot of work around sales. I do a lot of work in sales and influence, but body language, but also we bounce off our overt cues and our covert cues. So if we're giving out stress, people will respond to that with stress. So oxytocin, when we're in stress, oxytocin is one of the neurochemicals that shuts down, as well as dopamine and serotonin, which is the hell yeah, let's do this, or the peace, love, and mung beans. But oxytocin is the
Love is the love.
is love hormone, right? Is
Yeah.
the love hormone. Collaboration and connection.
Yes.
Attachment. And what do we want to do in the work context? We want to collaborate, we want to connect. Sometimes we fall in love. But ultimately collaboration, connection, but with our clients as well.
Right.
Collaboration, connection, attachment. We want to learn emotional intelligence to enable our clients to be out of their threat, their stress as well. So how do we bring them out of their sympathetic nervous system as well? So this is the art of influence. But back to HSC, the walking around the block or running around the block will take them out of threat, take them out of stress, bring them back to being able to move the focus away from threat and towards their goals.
Okay. Wow. Thank you so much. It is fantastic. Now, in your book, there's many chapters, by the way, but I just want to take advantage of having you here and ask you directly. In your chapter 13, you talk about values, value-driven action, right?
Yes.
What does that mean? I mean, that we have to live by our values, but our values changes all the time.
Well, our values potentially change, and it's about awareness, and it's about awareness of what those foundations are that give us meaning, purpose, and fulfillment. That's what our values are. And in a business context, this is an incredibly important strategic tool. So values provide, in a business context, values drive culture and culture drives performance. Super important. In a personal context, equally important, because we get so caught up in what we do, how we do it, but we don't think about purposeful action around the things that give us meaning and fulfillment. We just get caught up in this tsunami of life that sometimes bowls us over. So empowerment is designing our life. Empowerment is engaging in purposeful action to build our life around the things that give us meaning and fulfillment and satisfaction. And, for people listening or watching who are parents, it's super powerful to start having conversations around this with your children from the age of 5. Then they're never too young. 3, they're never too young to start the conversations around what are our family values, what create, like, fun. Let's call fun one of our family values, or kindness, or exercise, or movement, or connection. It doesn't have to be fancy. Let's keep it simple.
Yep.
And ultimately, as we're talking, human behavior is really simple. We overcomplicate. We unnecessarily complicate.
I like the line.
Human behavior is simple. We are very primitive, and existing in an incredibly complex world. So we have to bring things back to fundamentals, logical, transformational, built on neuroscience and how we function, because we want to survive, we want to live and flourish.
Right.
And What are the helpful things that enable us to do this and to do this bloody well? And what are the unhelpful things that take us away from that? What are the self-sabotaging behaviors? What are the fight behaviors, the flight behaviors? Or when we're getting caught up, oftentimes real estate, and if we talk about the Olympian's mindset, brilliant real estate agents often have this Olympian's mindset. It's about the difference between obsessive compulsive traits and OCD, as an example. Obsessive compulsive traits can be ensuring that we are vigilant around our high performance goals, as opposed to fear of something bad happening, which takes us into hypervigilance around our threats. Okay. So there's a flow into high performance habits that everybody is capable of doing. Okay.
All right. Now you got me interested. So I'm sure a lot of people are going to be interested. How do we work with you? Because you run the anxiety clinic center. So how do people work with you?
So I've got two businesses. So one of my businesses is the Anxiety Clinic, which is helping adults, kids, and teens with everything in the realm of mental health and well-being. Right. My other business is under the Dr Jodie website. So it's Dr Jodie, drjodie.com.au. And this is the work that I do as a high performance coach, as a keynote speaker, as a workshop facilitator. Right. And so, I work with whole organizations or teams or individuals, but I also do keynotes in front of audiences of any size. So, what's the real estate conference that you have annually? There's the
leadership one, yes.
Well, there's the big one that I can't remember what it's called now, but it's one that I love. Exactly. Yep. I'd love to speak at that, because ultimately, with my values of impact, at the end of the day, if I can help 5,000 people in 1 hour, that's what I love to do, right? Yeah. Which is hopefully what we're doing now. But they can get in touch. Otherwise, it's hello@drjodie.com.au.
Yes. So to go into that, I'm a salesperson or I'm a business owner. I want to work with you. Do we work via Zoom? Do I have to go to Bondi to meet with you? How do we do this? How many sessions do you need? And really, how do we reach an outcome?
I work via Zoom or in person. So yes. I am located in Bondi Junction in Sydney, but I see people nationally and internationally via Zoom or any other platform. Okay. And so it's very easy. We just jump in. I work on a retainer, and we jump into an engagement over a particular duration, whether it's 3 months or ongoing or even less. It depends on what the particular goals are. Yes. I'm very goal-oriented. And so it's thinking about your goals in relation to your hopes and dreams. So if you could do or be anything, what does that look like professionally and personally? Or what are your agitation points? And we work together to facilitate achieving your hopes and dreams professionally and personally, and alleviating any of those agitation points, or working across your team, across the executive team with partners or principals, whoever it is. That's what I do. And so my engagements are all tailored to individualized goals.
Okay. So One last question before I let you go, and I'm really enjoying this. I don't want to let you go, but I understand I have to at some stage let you go. So how I always ask everyone I do a podcast with the same Socratic line, which is, how do you know, Dr. Jodie, that you're leading an inspiring life?
How do I know for myself?
Yes.
Oh man, I am so heart-centered. I exist in a passion to help people on scale. So this is my modus operandi. I'm not flexing, I'm speaking very authentically. My heart pulls me, whether it's working with a 5-year-old or working with a multinational. Impact and legacy, as I mentioned earlier, are my core values, and along with authenticity and just a real passion to transform lives and improve lives. And it's such a joy that my expertise in anxiety has enabled me to develop the dual pathways of a high performance pathway and a mental health and well-being pathway, where the tools drive transformation in both aspects, on the background of my work in business and business strategy. So yeah, this is where I live and breathe in answer to your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being authentic. And thank you so much today for sharing. And I'm sure we're going to meet if you're willing to talk with a desperate case like me.
It will be a pleasure, a pleasure.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much,
much
Dr.
and take
Jodie.
care.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.